Hey,
anything.
you're driving a truck here.
What an intro.
Yeah, really.
No. Are you like noticed now in Alaska? Are you like one of the more famous people there?
I mean,
other than
Alaska's,
Sarah Palin?
There's 4 of you.
Yeah.
1 minute ago, something no one was supposed to see finally came to light. Hidden away from cameras, crew members, and even longtime business partners, Parker Schnabel's personal safe revealed contents so valuable and so unexpected that it instantly sent shockwaves through the gold rush world. This wasn't just about money. This was about secrets, decisions, and a calculated silence that Parker had maintained for years. Before we get into what was discovered, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications, because this isn't your typical gold rush story. This is a story about preparation, obsession, and a man who always keeps one final card hidden. To understand why what was found inside Parker's safe matters so much, we have to rewind, back to a season when everything appeared to be falling apart. Deep in the Yukon wilderness, Parker Schnabel was facing one of the most punishing mining seasons of his career. The conditions were brutal. Equipment failures piled up faster than repairs could keep pace. Weather windows closed without warning. Fuel prices soared, draining profits before gold even hit the scales. Every day became a test of endurance, patience, and nerve. From the outside, viewers saw a confident young mine boss barking orders and pushing forward. But behind the scenes, pressure was building fast. Every breakdown cost thousands. Every delay put the season at risk. And with investors watching closely, failure wasn't just embarrassing, it could be catastrophic. Parker has never been a gambler in the traditional sense. He takes risks, yes, but they're calculated, backed by data, instinct, and relentless preparation. Still, even the most prepared miner can only control so much. And that season, it felt like the Yukon itself was pushing back. What many didn't know was that while Parker was struggling on screen, he was quietly preparing for something off screen. If there's one thing people close to Parker will tell you, it's that he hates being cornered. He hates being reactive. And above all else, he hates being unprepared. So while others saw a tough season, Parker saw warning signs. And instead of panicking, he started planning. Behind locked doors and away from prying eyes, Parker began setting aside something far more valuable than gold dust: information, assets, and contingency resources. This wasn't about hoarding. It was about control. That safe wasn't just a box with a combination. It was a strategy. Parker's reputation has always been built on transparency. He shows his wins. He shows his losses. But what viewers don't often see is how much of his success comes from decisions made months or even years before a single ounce is mined. The safe was part of that invisible process. Inside it were documents tied to land options most miners overlooked. Geological surveys dismissed as outdated. Assay reports that contradicted mainstream evaluations. And tucked beneath it all, something no one expected: gold that had never been logged, weighed, or publicly acknowledged. Not raw nuggets tossed in for show, but carefully preserved samples taken from exploratory digs that never made it into the official records. These weren't thefts. They were proof. Proof of potential. Proof that Parker knew something others didn't. For decades, the Yukon has been mapped, studied, and mined by generations of prospectors. Most believe its secrets are already known. But Parker has always believed otherwise. He understands that mining isn't just about where gold has been found. It's about where people stopped looking. And those samples in the safe came from claims everyone else had written off. Years earlier, Parker had quietly authorized small test digs in areas deemed non-viable by traditional standards. The results weren't spectacular on the surface, but to Parker, they were screaming with possibility. Instead of announcing them, he locked them away. Why? 4 point. Because information is power. And in mining, power is leverage. At the same time, his visible operations were bleeding money. Parker was quietly building a backup plan that didn't rely on luck or public perception. If the season collapsed, he wouldn't be starting from zero. He would already be 3 steps ahead. But the real shock wasn't just the gold or the documents. It was the value. Experts who later reviewed what was found estimated the combined worth of the materials, options, and samples at well into the millions. And that number didn't even account for what those assets could unlock in the future. This wasn't a rainy day fund. This was a second operation hiding in plain sight. Suddenly, moments from past seasons started making sense. The calm Parker showed during setbacks, the confidence during risky decisions, the willingness to walk away from deals others thought were essential. He wasn't reckless, he was insulated, and the safe was the reason why. But how did no one notice? Because Parker never flaunts what he doesn't need to. He doesn't talk about contingency plans. He doesn't explain every calculation, and he certainly doesn't advertise his safety nets. To Parker, mining is war. And you don't reveal your defenses. Still, secrets have a way of surfacing. When a routine inventory check turned into something more, a trusted inner circle member stumbled upon the safe's contents. What started as a simple verification quickly turned into disbelief. Calls were made, locks were closed again, and suddenly, questions started spreading quietly through the camp. Was this allowed? Why wasn't it reported? What else does Parker know? The discovery didn't suggest wrongdoing, it suggested foresight. And foresight, in an industry driven by risk, can be worth more than gold itself. As word slowly leaked, veteran miners reacted with a mix of admiration and unease. Some praised Parker's intelligence. Others wondered how many opportunities they themselves had missed by trusting outdated data and conventional wisdom. Because the truth is, Parker's success has never come from digging harder than everyone else. It comes from thinking differently. And the safe proved it. But the biggest revelation was yet to come. Among the documents was a timeline, handwritten notes detailing future moves, acquisition windows, and contingency scenarios. This wasn't a reaction to a bad season. It was a roadmap designed years in advance, meaning Parker had anticipated failure long before it ever arrived. And that changes everything. Because when you realize Parker Schnabel plans for collapse as carefully as he plans for success, you start to understand why he keeps winning when others don't. The safe wasn't about fear. It was about inevitability. Mining seasons fail. Weather turns. Markets shift. Equipment breaks. And when that happens, only those who planned for it survive. Parker didn't just survive. He positioned himself to dominate. And this was only the beginning. Because what was found inside that safe wasn't just worth millions today. It could be worth far more tomorrow. And in part 2, we're going to reveal how this hidden reserve connects directly to Parker's boldest move yet. One that could permanently change the balance of power in the Yukon. Once the existence of the safe's contents became known within Parker's inner circle, the atmosphere around the claim quietly shifted. Nothing changed on camera. The wash plants kept running. The gold totals were still announced, like always. But behind the scenes, conversations became more guarded. Decisions were questioned more carefully. And for the first time in a long while, people began to realize that Parker Schnabel might be operating on a level far beyond what anyone had assumed. The discovery raised an uncomfortable truth. Parker hadn't just been reacting to circumstances, he had been managing them. While others fought fires as they appeared, Parker had already mapped out where the next blaze might start and stocked water in advance. The question everyone wanted answered was simple. Why keep it secret? Strong. The answer lies in how mining really works. In the Yukon, information spreads faster than gold dust in the wind. The moment word gets out that a piece of land has potential, prices jump. Claims disappear overnight. Partnerships dissolve. Competition turns ruthless. By locking away geological data, early samples, and land options, Parker wasn't hiding wealth. He was protecting opportunity. This wasn't paranoia. It was experience. Parker had watched deals collapse because of loose talk. He'd seen promising ground stripped away by investors the moment numbers leaked. He learned early that silence can be more valuable than speed. The safe was the physical embodiment of that lesson. But even with that understanding, the scale of what was inside still stunned those who saw it. The gold itself wasn't flashy. No massive nuggets, no dramatic piles. Instead, it was methodical. Labeled vials, sealed containers, and log samples tied to coordinates and dates. Each one represented a decision Parker had made not to act publicly. Not yet. And that restraint is what made the difference. As mining analysts began quietly reviewing the implications, one thing became clear. The safe didn't represent past success. It represented future dominance. The materials pointed toward claims that hadn't been exploited, deals that hadn't been activated, and plays that hadn't been revealed. Parker wasn't sitting on money. He was sitting on leverage. This realization sent a ripple through the mining community. Veterans who had dismissed certain regions as dead ground started pulling old maps. Younger miners began questioning long-accepted geological assumptions. Suddenly, Parker's quiet confidence over the years didn't seem so mysterious. It looked intentional. What followed was subtle but significant. Landowners who had once brushed Parker off started returning calls. Investors who had pressured him during lean seasons softened their tone. The balance of power shifted, not because Parker announced anything, but because people sensed he knew more than he was saying. And they were right. The safe also revealed something deeply personal about Parker Schnabel, his relationship with risk. On screen, Parker appears decisive, sometimes even aggressive. But behind the scenes, he is cautious in a way few realize. He doesn't rely on a single win. He builds layers beneath himself, each one designed to catch him if the one above fails. That mindset didn't come from comfort. It came from seasons that nearly ended everything. There were moments in earlier years when Parker was stretched thin, financially, mentally, emotionally. When equipment failures threatened entire operations, when gold totals missed projections, when criticism came from every direction, those moments taught him that survival in mining isn't about bravado, it's about endurance. The safe was built during those lessons. What's most striking is that Parker never used it as a crutch. He didn't lean on hidden assets to inflate results or mask losses. He kept pushing forward publicly, taking the same risks everyone else saw, while knowing that if everything went wrong, he wouldn't be finished. That distinction matters, because it separates recklessness from mastery. As the story continued to spread quietly, speculation grew about Parker's next move. Would he cash in? Would he finally reveal what he'd been holding back? Or would he continue operating in silence, letting others underestimate him? The answer began to emerge weeks later. Without fanfare, Parker initiated conversations that mirrored the notes found in the safe. Option windows opened exactly when predicted. Negotiations moved with uncanny precision. It was as if Parker was following a script only he had read. Because he was. The safe hadn't just stored value, it stored timing. Every move Parker made after that point felt deliberate, calm, and unshakable. Even when challenges arose, he never seemed rattled. And now, it was clear why. He wasn't improvising, he was executing. Industry insiders now admit that Parker Schnabel has quietly changed how modern mining is played. Not by finding more gold than anyone else, but by understanding when not to reveal what he knows. That discipline is rare, and it's why what was found in the safe matters more than the dollar value attached to it. Anyone can strike gold. Very few can build a system that keeps them winning even when they don't. The safe represented that system. It symbolized years of patience, restraint, and calculated silence. It showed that Parker wasn't just mining ground. He was mining information, opportunity, and timing. And perhaps the most surprising part of all is that Parker never intended for this to become public. This wasn't a reveal. It was a glimpse, one that happened accidentally, briefly, and without spectacle. Yet that glimpse was enough. Enough to change how people see him. Enough to change how competitors approach the Yukon. Enough to confirm what many had suspected but never proven. Parker Schnabel isn't just successful because he works harder. He's successful because he plans further ahead. Today, the safe is locked again. Its contents remain largely undisclosed, and Parker, as always, has moved on without comment. But the impact remains, because now everyone knows. Not what's inside the safe, but that Parker always has one. And in a world where fortunes rise and fall, with the seasons, that knowledge alone is worth millions.